any other questions or comments on that, on the appointments? Okay, the next item is the 2016-17 budget and organizational packet. We'll start with the budget and let's take a minute. So we've had a large budget meeting and a small budget meeting as far as the whole picture, and several budget meetings with the department heads to review this budget. As per last week's meeting, we have enclosed a copy of the budget, all our funds, and the detail of our revenues as well as the detail of our expenses. The total budget here is nearly $21 million. Of course, if you take all our transfer into account, it's about a $16 million budget that we're actually passing. So $16 million budget with a $7.7 million, nearly 7.8, I guess, million dollar general fund budget. The general fund budget is lower than the budget for last year, so we have succeeded in keeping that budget within the same expenses that we did last year, even with the changes that had to be made. And we do have a balanced general fund budget to by how much, Mr. Manning?
About almost $7,000.
Okay. So again, this is the full budget. I think the only changes were the ones that were discussed from last week in our meeting, or in the budget meeting, the last budget meeting we had. And that's what came to these final numbers. Actually, there were some reductions in the revenue department, a few things where some of those expenses were taken out. This does include the IT director, correct, as discussed last week.
It does.
So on the budget part, are there any questions or comments on this, this portion of it?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we accept the budget as is, but on the line item, the admin fee, I recommend that we postpone that and cover that with cash until all parties are aware of exactly what's going on. There's some misinformation out there. And some people are not understanding exactly what this is entailing. So at this time, I ask that we do not include the admin fee in the budget.
Okay. So just to clarify, we've got the budget and the organizational packet. We'll approve that after this. The motion that's on the floor is to approve the entire budget with an amendment to the general fund on the admin fee. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what line item is that, Mr. Manning?
Where's that?
It's on the second page.
44135. Could you hold your motion so we can discuss that?
Yes, that'll be fine.
Okay. So what you'd like to propose is that we remove that admin fee and fund that with cash, is that correct?
Until we've had time to discuss. There's a lot of people involved in this decision, and there's some misinformation about exactly what we proposed. And so I ask that we don't move forward with that until everybody's on the same page.
The main reason that we have the cash is because we borrowed money to do our A-Trip project. I would like to see us pay off our A-Trip loan, because if we're gonna spend our dollars, I would like to lessen our obligation. I'd like to see us pay the A-Trip loan off before we run out of cash.
Okay. So any comments or questions on either of these items? On the proposition on the admin fee, is this something that would be proposed to come back to after those discussions have been had, or?
Once everybody that we're meeting with and everybody's on the same page, you know, I say we can address it at that time, but at this time it needs to be completely removed from our budget.
And
yes, it can be brought back.
I do want to state something. I think there's an article in the paper this weekend. There's been a couple of meetings with some members of the superintendent from schools just to discuss this admin fee. And in that, of course, we understand that this could have an impact. The proposal that was on the table was to take a portion of the growth, which would not have a negative impact, or hope not to have a negative impact on education. However, my understanding with the education side is that there are budget problems there as well that need to be, or that they are concerned with handling. And I know that that's where they're coming from as far as if we take these dollars. Is that correct?
Well, our original proposal, we just wanted to share in the growth, which they don't budget anyway.
Right.
It would not impact them at all, but again, the things that are floating around, the information that's out there is not what we discussed. And that's why I wanted to remove this until everybody's on the same page. We were merely only asking that we share in the growth of that, again, where it didn't negatively impact them, and that's the information that's out there.
Any other questions or comments? I do want to say, and I said this I think several times, but whatever decisions are made, obviously we represent every citizen in this county, and we're trying to make the best decisions for everybody in this county. But we also represent all the organizations in this county, and I hope that every organization, with whatever decision we make, every organization understands that we are doing our best to work with them in the best way possible to keep every organization in Jackson County moving forward. That was the discussion, of course, in pursuing these admin fees, was to do it in a way that would not hurt that. If we choose not to, I think that would show them as well that we're doing all we can to try to support those organizations. But I do want that to be noted, and I think every commissioner feels the same way, let me know if you don't. We truly do want to work with the entities and organizations in this county, and we truly are trying to work for the people of this county to make the best decisions possible. So, any other comments? Did you have anything else on I think, on the A-trip loans, if we were to pay that off, would you recommend paying the entire thing or just a portion?
Open for discussion. I would like to see if we can
That's what if we're gonna do it, I think we're just gonna pay it off and save that fee we're paying every year.
Yeah, we're paying $157,000 a year debt service to that.
Okay.
We're talking about, you said $7,000, what, if we passed it with the school administration fees, so we're looking at roughly $423,000 budget deficit. If we take that admin out.
That's correct.
My only issue with paying that off, of course, we talked about this earlier, is the loan, the interest is so low. I think we ought to really think about it. Because if we do have to go borrow any money, we're not gonna get it for 2% that we're paying now. What is it, 2.2?
It's about 3.2.
3.2?
I understand the concern also about not wanting to make sure that we don't have debt out there that can't be.
Yeah, if we run out of cash, and we've got that debt service to operate, I mean, my main concern is us being able to function, make sure we can pay our employees and.
Well, money, comes in yearly, for capital that I do understand, and I agree. I know why you're saying that. I want to make sure I say this right. Doing some of the things that we're doing right now is not the proper way to do business. Covering this deficit with cash is not the way to do business. Paying this note off that's low interest is really not the way to do business. But our back's against the wall, and I do understand that. So maybe that is what we need to do.
But if you think about it, $430,000 possible deficit, if we cut this fee off, that's gonna knock almost $160,000. So we're almost at half
I think we just need to be prepared if we move forward with these proposals. You know, we can get through this year based on these proposals. We may have a very tough time when it comes next year though, and of course, we will need to consider the extra 200,000, probably lost from, if not more, from PGA next year, but this does get us through this year. It will get us through this year if we choose to go this route, and give us one more year to figure out what we need to do and come up with a solution to the problem. Even not doing these items, going with it as it was presented before, we've still got a problem. There's still a decision that'll have to be made and go back to cuts next year if something's not done. So, the long-term goal, I don't know that this necessarily has an effect, and I don't mean that in the wrong way, on the long-term goal. But this is some short-term stuff, decisions that probably need to be made, so that we can move forward and determine what our long-term, what we're gonna do for the long term.
Until our revenue streams change, we will continue every year to have this same conversation.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, and there's nothing we can do about it. Paying off what little debt the county's in, so you don't run out of cash, and I understand that. It's very difficult to do that, but it's also difficult to cover it with a cash balance when,
Yeah, it's difficult.
we have deficits, I
It's
understand
difficult
that.
to cover $423,000 when the money's available to take, but I understand, you know, we need to give them time to be prepared. We need to, make sure everybody understands that we're not trying to impact or negative on school boards, you know, that we would only be taking growth and, you know, I think there's some more discussion there that needs to be had before, you know, we do that, and I would agree with that. But I'm just trying to look down the road, and I'm real concerned about, you know.
What's the total on A trip, the balance? About 1.1.
1.2 nearly.
All right, let's just say 1.2.
We do have some operating still at 112. We would, yeah, we have operating a little bit out of 112, but there's your 116 that would go, yeah, towards the majority of that,
That, and
whatever it needs to come from here.
that's what I'm saying, you know, you're looking at 1.8.
And then we've got
You
the
do 1.2,
possibility.
and then you cover 430. That's about as close to taking it out as you get, because it leaves about 170,000.
If we cover the 430 for 12 months, if we
Right.
don't do something about that before the end of the fiscal year. I feel like we're holding that long to cover our budget deficit. I mean, that's just the way it feels to me. I don't feel comfortable continuing to do that. I mean, if we have this same problem next year and cover it again, we wind up, you know, we get to the point where that money is what's covering our budget deficit, and I don't feel
Sure.
comfortable doing that.
Well, I hope we don't experience it, but we did experience it in 2011, the gravity wave. It comes through and devastates this county. There is no money. There is no money to operate. When we're going to the bank, we're gonna borrow the money, and we're gonna pay 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, whatever that is. That's something that, and again, that's what if, that's what
I
if.
agree, and I
May
understand
not be.
100%,
May
but,
not
you know,
happen.
we've had difficulties, trying to explain our financial situation to people when we have cash on hand.
You have a gravity wave too, even what's left in there is not going.
We do have,
I mean,
Sure.
what you've got left, if you have a
But
major.
this is immediate, you can get your hands on
Yeah.
it. We can make a decision today and help folks.
there may be dollars available too through the emergency fund, what remains in that emergency fund. I know that those dollars are just sitting there. We've got to keep in mind, if an emergency happens, I don't think that they would just sit on those dollars. I believe that those dollars should become available for an emergency like that. and that's from the legislative delegation. I can't speak for them, I don't know that that's what happened, but I think we need to keep that as part of this picture too, that if they're gonna hold on to those dollars, that that would be a use that would, I think, warrant those dollar use.
I'm for both proposals, under different financial circumstances. I would not be for either one of these proposals, but that's where we're at, and I do support both of them.
Mr. Chairman, may I add one other thing?
Yes, sir.
Just from an informational standpoint too, and looking at the sales tax, that we were discussing, but taking it only on the growth part, like we had discussed. We need to keep in mind too, that there's a potential that that's really, will really increase in the next year or two. So you need to also consider that if it increases dramatically with what's all that's going on with Google and whatnot, that could be even more than what we're talking
Sure.
about there. So I just wanted to also, add that in to consider that
Sounds
that may be a lot more than a 5 or 7% growth next year.
Well, I think that's the county's only option, but everybody's gotta understand what we're doing before we do it. Because it just seems like, they're not on the same page.
We've been talking about it
That's not
for
what
a
I'm
while.
reading.
That's the thing, we've been talking about it for a while, but it's still a surprise when it happens, and I think that's what the biggest thing is folks not realizing this is what we have to do ultimately. So even if we push off 6 more months, maybe what we have to do at some point, but, I think folks hopefully realize that this is a real thing that may have to be done in order to get this fixed. We'll take a big fix, obviously, or I will, any time, if we get a fix to the,
Sure.
bigger fix to the problem. But without any other fixes, that's the last option that I know that we have as far as revenue. And that again does not solve us, would only take care of this year, because we've got, next year, we're looking at increased deficit from the 430, so, there's a lot of things that go into play there. Is there any other discussion? One other thing that we did discuss, I think, but we did not make a decision on and I don't think we included on the registrars, the reimbursement as a request that was given to us. That, I do not think that's included in here, is that correct, for the monitors?
Did that come along after we?
We discussed, it was brought forward, and then I think we discussed it last week or the last budget meeting, but there was no decision made on it. I think there's a possibility of pulling it from some other funds, but did we want to put that in the budget? Do we want to go ahead and include that in?
Mr. Miller and I said we would.
Yeah, we
cover
would,
it.
Okay. So we won't worry about that as far as the budget goes?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't worry about
Good. Okay. So before we move forward with the budget and discussions on those, I do want to talk about the organizational packet. When we came into office, we were notified by our auditors about a problem, or folks not being on the pay scale. It's been a problem that's been needed to be fixed for a very long time. And in our big budget meeting, we had a discussion about that and a long overview of that. So we'll go over each piece of this now, and a lot of this is just to clear up what is in place so that we know this is the up-to-date information on what we have and what we're going to do going forward. So the first thing I want you to take notice, in the center of the table is our job descriptions. These are the job descriptions for most of the positions. And if you'll all reference this sheet here, this is your classification plan. You have one in there? Everybody take a look at the classification plan there. Okay, the classification plan identifies every department, by department, every position, the grade that position is, the number of individuals that occupy that position, and whether you have before you a job description for it and an organizational chart for it. So it'll say yes or no under those 2 items. And then a few notes on the side. There's some quick policies on the sides there. We will need to adopt more formal policies in the future regarding how these increases occur. One example is with the Sheriff's Department. Right now, the Sheriff's Department, after they go through academy, they get an increase, and then once they're here a year, they get an increase. This clarifies with a policy with the Jackson County Commission how that works, and the sheriff has agreed to sign on to this and stick with this plan as it's presented here. So again, this is the full, every department, grade, position, and the number of folks in that position. And of course, that corresponds with the pay scale that you all have here. So, every position, again, if it states it has a job description, that job description is listed here. Several of these job descriptions have not changed. However, again, I would like to include it in this packet. Again, just to say these are the most up-to-date positions that we have, and job descriptions that we have. Things like the IT director, it is in the budget, but once we plan to move forward with that and get advertised, we will have an up-to-date job description to be approved on that. So there are a few things you'll see in here that either don't have the org chart, those things will still be worked on, but this is everything that we have before you this evening. Your organizational charts, again, you've got a copy of that. These are for all the departments that are listed there. Just again clarifying what the positions are. Some of these positions may have changed recently. I ask you not to take notice so much of the name that is in the org chart, so much of the positions. What we plan to do going forward, if we change our policy and even if we don't, these organizational charts will be what show us what vacancies we have. So when we look and say, okay, we're hiring a driver in sanitation, we know that we have that position available or we don't have that position because we have so many driver slots available. Same thing with the Public Works Department and so on. This just clarifies the county employees for the departments listed here. The sheriff and the jail do not have one at this point. We'll work with them to get something put together. And it's really a better budgeting tool for us so that we know what positions are available in this county and what positions we have filled.
You've done all these one by one already,
Several of them, yes. Yeah, again, this would just be to clarify any changes, such as the probate office. We approved in this budget to put that full-time employee back and he would pay for the part-time employee. So that is a change here. IT director is one change that's on here. So yeah, most of this is the same as what we've approved in the past, but again, just to clarify everything. And then the final thing that you have before you, your pay sheet, your packet here. This is the sheet that has this scale applied along with the classification plan. Every person in the county that is a full-time or part-time employee is listed on that plan. I think I may have accidentally left retirees on that plan as well, I'm not sure. But that identifies where they belong on this pay scale, where everybody will sit at on this pay scale. So are there any questions or comments on any of that? This is basically bringing everything together from what was discussed a few weeks back. Any other questions or comments? When we approved the budget, I would have asked that we approve the organizational plan and packet with that. Again, there are still some policies that need to be worked on. We'll work on that over the next several weeks. All of our job descriptions will be put into a system we have for those. We'll put those all in there. If there are any changes, of course, we'll bring that back to the commission. But we'll have uniform job descriptions once this whole process is complete as well. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Then we'll entertain a motion to approve whatever and however we need to approve. The items on the table are the 2016-17 budget, the organizational packet as presented here, along with job descriptions, the paying off of the ATRIP loan, as well as the removal of the revenue source from the 5% until further discussions have taken place. So we can approve this in total, or we can do this, can we do that in total? That's a lot of
I think you
stuff.
can do that, that's too many.
Okay, so let's take that one at a time. We will take let's take the proposal for our revenue, change of the revenue on the budget. Actually, that would be with the budget. Let me think on this for a second. Okay, let's take our ATRIP proposal first. We do have a motion on how we want to proceed with that.
Make the motion to pay off our ATRIP loan.
Okay, we have a motion to pay the ATRIP loan using first Fund 116, I presume? Okay. Motion, we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, the next
There's not
item,
enough in 116 to pay that off.
Right.
That's come from both.
right. Okay, so motion, second, that's passed. Okay, next item will be the budget, we can approve it with or without that change, so we'll entertain a motion on how we want to move forward with the budget, if you want to reinstate your previous motion.
I'll make a motion we approve the budget, less the revenue source of 5% admin fee at this time.
And cover that with cash,
Cover
correct?
it with cash.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
motion and a second. Okay, any further discussion on that item?
This is to be just a temporary, till everybody's on the same page, because it's inevitable, we've got to have the revenue stream, but everybody's got to be on the same page.
We'll do our best to get,
We'll do
let
our
them
best to
know.
get there.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, the final item is the organizational packet as presented. Can we approve that as one? Okay. So that includes the pay scale, the classification plan, the job description, and your sheet there that basically shows where everybody is on this classification plan.
I'll make a motion to approve all items mentioned. One.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that concludes the items for item number 10. I guess we'll list as A, B, and C. The final item is a request for the F. Woodville FFA, that Mr. Ledwell's fund, is that correct? Okay, and that's for how much?
$500. It's for a national competition, or something, what he said. Yeah, those kids are going to some kind of competition.
Do we have a motion to approve that allotment?
Make a motion.
Motion, do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that concludes the items on our agenda for this evening. We do have a work session next Monday. I think that's everything. Move on to our reports. Mr. Manning,
Nothing else?
Mr. Porter, Mr. Campbell,
Yes, sir, thank you.
Ms. Thurman, Mr. Barnes.
We're making a lot of progress down at the cabin, so if you'd like to come look, I think Mr. Miller said he's come look. Mr. Wilkins come look, so we're making a lot of progress, so
Good deal. Coming along, that's very good.
hopefully be on time.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? We did get the kitty park bids in, a
Yes.
couple, last Monday, and, hopefully by the next work session, but by the next meeting, we'll have a recommendation on how to move forward with that. Trying to make sure we've got all our information we need to make a recommendation. Okay, so that concludes our reports. Mr. Venable?
I'd like to thank all the commissioners. I mean, we've been through a lot of difficult stuff. I appreciate the ability to have a conversation, and I think we're all on the same page and want to do what's best for the community. And I just want to express my gratitude for everybody on the commission.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Miller?
No, sir.
Mr. Geffen? Mr. Lehman?
No, sir.
I'll repeat the same from Mr. Venable, and most folks don't understand the biggest task this commission has is the passing of a budget. That is its primary position, is to pass a budget and funding the county. And you're absolutely correct in the fact that we have had a difficult time in 4 years in passing these budgets.
We've decreased our overall spending every year.
Yes,
We still can't seem to get our head above water.
right. So, I also thank everybody, and it's a good team to work with, and we'll keep on working. Have no choice, but I appreciate the fact that everybody has kept on working. And we do have an employee meeting this Wednesday, and one thing we can't forget about are those employees and the fact that these decreases have come in large part because of the changes that they've made. and the sacrifices that they've made over the years. This classification plan is a small thing to get them at a better place, but it does not solve the issue in total, and I do want the employees to know that how important they've been to this entire process. So, with that, that concludes everything for our agenda this afternoon. And any other reports? We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Motion in a second.
Second.
And real quickly in discussion, I did need to mention that we do have the employee meeting Wednesday morning. The courthouse will be closed. We'll open no later than 10 a.m. for the county offices. The state offices will open at 8 as usual. We have a motion second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no.